Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Tuesday the 28th of October. Protection for pets. New bill prevents blanket ban in private rental properties.
Good for well-being, it's good for the children, and I think it's part of your rights as a tenant to be able to have a pet.
Shoplifting surge. Kent's high streets left counting the cost of rising thefts.
It's on a rise, it is. We're dealing with shoplifters constantly.
And breaking reality. 10 years of Electric Medway Festival brought in with VR celebration.
We find ourselves in front of this amazing castle using augmented reality, which maybe 10 years ago was a bit of a dream. So yeah, it's a real milestone.
But first, our top story. Animal charities across Kent have been welcoming the introduction of the Renters' Rights Bill, which will make it easier for tenants to own a cat or a dog. Landlords will now be forced to consider requests for pets in their properties, which they won't be able to unreasonably refuse. Tenants will be required to have pet insurance to cover any damage caused by their pets. Animal charities have said the changes to the law, which are due to come into force next year, could decrease adoption rates and increase mental well-being, as Kristen Hawthorne's been finding out.
A new law has been passed to make it easier for tenants in private rental properties to keep pets, by preventing landlords from denying responsible renters without a valid reason. Dee Bonnet, whose campaign led Maidstone Council to allow pets in temporary accommodation, knows firsthand the difference this kind of change can make.
Some people don't want to be pet owners, they don't want that responsibility, but they love pets. So the guy, or Rocky's dad, obviously, owns Rocky, and the other two guys here, they may not want that responsibility, but they love having Rocky around. So, you know, if one of them's left in the house and they're with Rocky, that's the company, the love, and, you know, Rocky doesn't want anything apart from being fed, being warmed and being loved, you know, and he gives so much love back, as you've seen this afternoon.
He's been really good for my recovery. Yeah, if I didn't have him, I'd feel worthless, you know, because I've lost everything and he's basically my family.
But is this new law something that everyone agrees with?
Yeah, I think renters should definitely have the right to have an animal or a pet. It's good for well-being, it's good for the children, and I think it's part of your rights as a tenant to be able to have a pet, definitely.
It's a case for a conversation, really. I know now things are so impersonal because you go through the agents and so on, and the agents do most of the vetting before you actually even have a chance to talk to the prospective tenant.
I agree with that. I was going to say my mother lived in a warden-assisted place, and they weren't allowed to have pets, and I thought that was a bit terrible, as she owned the property as well.
Those at the Kenwood Trust say that while it is a step in the right direction, that there's still a long way to go.
For us, we would be keen to explore other ways of increasing the amount of supported accommodation, social housing, where pets are able to access that sort of accommodation. I think that's really important, that people can access the accommodation, all types of accommodation, whether that be private rented, social housing, supported accommodation, and have access to their animals still. You know, it's really important for us all to consider ways that can be improved moving forward.
While the new law has been welcomed by campaigners and animal charities, questions remain over how it will work in practice. But for those like Wayne, having a pet is already making a world of a difference. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Maidstone.
Next, a case of bird flu has been confirmed near Newington in Sittingbourne, with a 3-kilometre control zone set up. Bird owners in areas like Lower Halstow, Bobbing and Funton all have to keep their poultry in enclosures and record any visitors. The Animal and Plant Health Agency exclusion zone has led to several businesses shutting their doors temporarily, and experts say the risk to the public does remain very low, but residents are being urged to follow containment measures. Well, Maisie Walker joins me now with more details on the story. And I suppose my first question really is, what kind of precautions are being taken to make sure everyone stays safe?
Yeah, so So since the presence of bird flu was confirmed in Sittingbourne, it's been advised that those who do own birds in this vicinity monitor and safely house them. The animals cannot be moved elsewhere during this time, and people are also required to keep a record of visitors and whether they come into contact with any other birds. Some businesses, as you were saying, have temporarily shut because of the outbreak, such as Hen Weekend Chicken Boarding, which is essentially a kennel service for hens and ducks. This is just within the controlled zone, which covers areas around Bobbing and Funton. On Facebook, the boss, Katerina Chauvin, said that this means by law all poultry must be housed or kept fully enclosed, and no birds can move on or off the premises until restrictions are lifted by the Animal and Plant Health Agency. Because of this, Hen Weekend will be temporarily closed for new arrivals and departures. The Chief Veterinary Officer, Gordon Hitchman, announced these measures at 7 p.m. yesterday. It comes after bird flu was found in other captive birds in the area. This refers to birds that are kept as pets or for competitions and excludes those that are raised for meat, eggs or other products.
I see. I'm not too familiar with bird flu. Is it something that can affect humans at all?
So while the disease primarily affects birds, some strains can spread to humans through things like close contact with infected animals or contaminated environments. People can get a range of symptoms from mild flu-like illness to severe respiratory disease. But the UK Health Security Agency advises that bird flu is a disease for birds and the risk to the general public's health is very low.
I see. Well, thank you so much for bringing us this story, Maisie. Next, CCTV footage has revealed the moment a masked thief broke into a Ramsgate shop and attacked police officers. 32-year-old Dean Pemble broke into the Severka Czech and Slovak supermarket on King Street before hitting an officer over the head with a heavy object in a carrier bag, leaving him with severe bruising. A second officer was also assaulted before Pemble was eventually restrained with pepper spray and arrested. He's admitted to burglary and assaulting emergency workers and remains in custody awaiting sentencing. Next, the British couple detained in Iran are losing hope following a recent court appearance. This is all according to their Folkestone-based son. Joe Bennett spoke to his mother, Lindsay Foreman, last week in only the second call they've had since she was imprisoned earlier this year. Iranian authorities arrested Ms. Foreman and her husband Craig in January and later charged them with espionage, which they deny. Mr. Bennett said the last 10 months have been a living nightmare and he continues to ask for the public's support. Next, Ashford's Hodes Wood is notorious for fly tipping and was even mentioned in a House of Lords inquiry on waste crime, which it says is critically under-prioritised. The report adds it's a national issue and needs more attention from the Environment Agency and the authorities. This has led the Kent Police and Crime Commissioner to support further calls for an independent review of waste crime as a whole. Well, I spoke to Matthew Scott about this earlier. Thank you so much for joining me, Matthew. First of all, during this inquiry, heard it was over 38 million tonnes of waste being illegally dumped each year across the country. And during this report, there was also a mention of this kind of under priority of waste crime in terms of its enforcement. Can you talk to us about where you think this stems from? Where's this under priority really come from?
I think it's a lack of resources which have been given to the Environment Agency to tackle this problem. We know that there are multiple sites here in Kent, multiple sites across the country, and they just don't have the capacity to be able to investigate all of them effectively enough, nor do we think they maybe have enough powers to do so. That's why people see the frustrating and disappointing scenes at places like Hodes Wood near Ashford, where they just fail to get a grip of it. And that's why the taxpayer is now footing the bill for millions of pounds worth of clear-ups.
And you mentioned the taxpayer there. Your letter also mentions wanting to make it more of a priority for the taxpayer, for the citizen who might be affected by this type of waste crime like Hodes Wood you mentioned there. What is the end goal towards reducing this crime? What does that look like?
Well, our citizens are facing the cost of this, whether that's through increased cost of landfill tax, whether that is through the dumping in their local communities, millions of pounds of taxpayers' money, not government money, taxpayers' money being spent clearing up after these failures and after these criminals. What we need a whole system approach which brings together every single agency properly to share intelligence, that residents have got just one place they need to phone to report it, not multiple.
The inquiry specifically mentioned this waste on occasion has been illegally dumped by organised crime groups. Is this a concern for you as the Police and Crime Commissioner?
I absolutely agree with that, and I've described these waste crime groups as the new county lines because they are travelling enormous distances across the country to dump the waste. When I was out on a recent operation with Kent Police, they were stopping lorries that were coming from Pembrokeshire to dump waste in Kent. That's unacceptable, but it just demonstrates how being proactive, you can stop those kind of things from happening. So there is absolutely a role here for the police. Our regional organised crime units are working with the PCCs in the region in order to better understand the threat, risk and harm that these groups are posing. We now just need to join all the pieces together with the councils and the Environment Agency so that we can bear down on them. We need to continue denying them the use of our roads and tackling them for all sorts of things.
Now it's time for a quick break. See you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, plans for one of the UK's largest battery storage facilities on land at Brabourne Leys near Ashford has been rejected. More than 500 residents objected to the bid for the site on 10 hectares of land on Parsonage Farm, with residents arguing that construction would harm natural farmland ecosystems and present a fire risk. Ashford Borough Council rejected the plans as they said, among other concerns, it would hurt the character and tranquillity of the Kent Downs area. After Ashford Borough Council's rejection of the plans, a spokesperson for the Greenfield Energy Development said they would be reviewing the decision notice in detail and assessing viable next steps. Now, in Kent, shoplifting has increased by nearly 40% in the past 5 years. This is all according to the Office for National Statistics. This comes as charity shops have raised concerns about a recent rise in theft in their stores. Alfie Rowe spoke to some of the affected businesses down in Bedway today.
Jake Aldridge has spent nearly 2 years running the Wisdom Hospice charity shop in Rochester. In that time, a worrying trend has emerged.
We've had quite a few thefts, ranging from numerous things, from just clothing to expensive jewellery out of the cabinets. We've had watches stolen, we've had, glassware, homeware, antiques, loads of bits that have been stolen, and obviously it affects the sales within the shop because although obviously we don't pay for the products, it does prevent us raising money for the charity.
But this is just one case in many.
In the past 5 years, there have been over 17,000 reported cases of shoplifting across the county. This represents a 38% increase since 2020, and charity shops have been hit particularly hard. According to a recent survey by the Charity Retail Association, in the majority of cases, respondents reported an increase in the past 12 months in cases of shoplifting.
It's on a rise, it is. We're dealing with shoplifters constantly, as well as the normal as well. We're always having to be on the lookout at the time of it. I've had many experiences being in where we are. I've had to stop about 3 or 4 people constantly.
For all those caught red-handed, many more slip through the cracks.
What we have to understand is that shoplifting is a massively underreported crime. The numbers that we're seeing are only those which have been reported to the police. The estimates are that this is much, much higher. There's multiple different reasons why we are seeing retail crime and the increase of it. Some of it has been organised crime groups. Some of it has been linked to people's addictions to drugs and alcohol. And also there are people who do steal because they need to. I think people should be held to account for it. But the police have got a number of different ways in which they can do that through community resolutions, cautions, formal charging, and work with the businesses as well.
With the holidays coming up, Kent residents will continue to head to the shops. For the authorities, the challenge is clear. Stop the cases of theft from piling up. Alfie Rowe for KMTV in Rochester.
Next, supermarket shoppers in Kent should see cigarette-style labels warning that chemicals in bacon and ham could cause bowel cancer. Scientists at the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer are demanding more regulations informing buyers of the harmful risks, all in order to remove strain on the NHS. But what do you think about this story? And are there foods that you know you should be eating less? Well, we went down to Rochester to ask shoppers for their opinion.
No, no idea.
I did not. No, I didn't know.
I think more of people should be eating more natural foods that haven't been preserved, and definitely going to local farmers markets or shopping locally as possible. Yeah, buying fresh food is definitely better for you because you know that there's not going to be as many chemicals in there.
More vegetables and pasta, but not so much meat at all. Whatever type of meat it is, not so much meat. More veg, more whole grains, pulses, things like that. Fruit.
It was definitely going to make me think twice about where I get my bacon from, that's for sure, yeah. But yeah, other processed meats, I don't get that as much, so that doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, bacon, going to have to look into that.
It definitely will. Now I have that information, it definitely will, yes.
And now here's all your sports headlines coming in from across the county. first up, it's the Gills, and it's not quite an injury crisis at the club yet, but it is certainly having an effect on the squad's selection. This is all because of a lack of available wingers. On Saturday, the side fielded 3 strikers up top, with Seb Palmer-Holden, Sam Vokes and Josh Andrews named in the starting 11. It comes as Johnny Smith and Gareth McCleary remain out, and Aaron Rowe makes a tentative recovery from his own spell out injured. The assistant manager Richard Dobson said that in an ideal world we'd like everyone available, and we could probably play with wingers in the side. We just thought the 3 strikers combination was the right one to go with. The Gills still did manage to create some chances on Saturday with 14 shots, and they'll head next to Newport County for the FA Cup first round. Now, a few leagues down, Sittingbourne have made quite the coup, acquiring the services of former Liverpool and Bournemouth winger Jordan Ibe. Ibe made his top-flight breakthrough after joining Liverpool from Wycombe as a teenager. Then he was transferred over to Bournemouth before shifting to non-league, where he played for Ebbsfleet. He's been training with the Brickies for the past week, and according to boss Ryan Maxwell, his hope is that Ibe can start to enjoy football again. He added, "I just want to take it step by step once we get his international clearance through," because he was registered out in Sweden. Sittingbourne will visit Crowborough in the League Cup this evening. All the best of luck to them, but over to cricket now, and the teenage all-rounder Ikash Singh has put pen to paper on a new 3-year contract with Kent. The homegrown player made his full debut against Somerset in their 2024 Metrobank One-Day Cup campaign and has made 22 county appearances in his career, scoring 640 runs and taking 5 wickets. He's also scored an impressive youth test century for England under-19s, all against India, scoring 117 from 155 balls and adding, "I'm extremely proud to make my first-class debut for my boyhood club this year, but he assures us this is just the start for me." And it's a chip off the old block as Jason Smith becomes the first second-generation winner of the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch. The 19-year-old seemed unfazed in the 50th anniversary race, leading from the lights all the way to the checkered flag in a dominant performance. His dad Neville won the Kent class at the same event back in 2010, and Jason says, "I've been dreaming of this since I was a child, and now Dad and I are the first people to have won it as father and son." The West Kingsdown Circuit will host the next edition on October 24th, 2026. And that's all for your sports news. And don't forget, you can keep up to date with all the latest stories from across Kent by visiting our website at kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our reports, including this one by Megan Shaw, all about how veterans paint models to help with their well-being.
What do helicopters, glue and military veterans all have in common? They can all be found in Models for Heroes sessions, which allows veterans to distract themselves, focus on something meaningful and find comfort in shared experiences. Founded in 2017, the charity hosts 2 sessions in Kent, one in Gillingham and the other in Aylesford, which sees attendees create and paint their own models. A recent collaboration between the Canterbury-based Agora Models, a company specialising in museum-grade model kits, has donated these to veteran groups in support of World Mental Health Day next week.
Models for Heroes is a support group for military veterans and emergency personnel, and their group revolves around making models, assembling model kits and building dioramas.
But why models? A study in the British Journal of Occupational Therapy found creative hobbies boost mental well-being, and focusing on a personal project creates a sense of purpose and accomplishment.
People get so much out of it. I can't sort of emphasise that enough. It's, guys that maybe for the first time have come out and interacted with a group of ex-service personnel, and it's not long before, as I say, the banter starts. But it's great. It's almost like a steam valve releasing all that pressure that's been built up, and it does help so much.
And increased well-being is not the only benefit on offer here.
As you can see here, these are super fiddly, but they're great for improving dexterity. I'm really struggling here, but these guys are much better than me.
For some, Models for Heroes sessions have been a lifeline.
I'm a veteran of the military of 17 and a half years in the Royal Engineers, and I suffer with PTSD, and it helps no end. Unfortunately, I've been to some dark places, and I know the benefit of this because, as I said, it pushes all the nasty thoughts to the back of the mind.
As long as places like these continue to offer support for veterans, the war against loneliness wages on. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Gillingham.
Now let's take a quick look at the weather. Well, it's a fairly cloudy evening across Kent with us seeing the temperature sit around 11 degrees with a gentle breeze from the southwest. Tomorrow morning, the temperature will bump up across the board to 13 degrees with light rain all around. And in the afternoon, the light rain continues, temperatures dropping to 12 with the exception of Dover remaining at 13. And here's your outlook for the coming days. This includes Thursday, looking cloudy with some sun, an average of 14 degrees. Friday with clouds and light rain, seeing 16 degrees throughout the day. And finally, Saturday, 14 degrees with more of that light rain. Now it's time for a quick break. Next up, Kent tenants will no longer be restricted by their pet when looking for a new rental property. This comes with the new introduction of the Renters' Rights Bill, which will restrict landlords' control. We'll have all this and more just after this very short break. See you in a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Here's a recap of your top stories. Protection for pets. New bill prevents blanket ban in private rental properties. Shoplifting surge. Kent's high streets left counting the cost of rising thefts. And breaking reality. 10 years of electric Medway seen with AR celebration. But first, a look back at our top story. Animal charities across Kent have been welcoming the introduction of the Renters' Rights Bill. This will make it easier for tenants to own a cat or a dog. Landlords will now be forced to consider requests for pets in the property, which they won't be able to unreasonably refuse. Tenants will be required to have pet insurance to cover any damage caused by their pets. And animal charities have said the changes to the law, which are due to come into force next year, could decrease adoption rates but increase mental well-being, as Kristen Hawthorne's been finding out.
A new law has been passed to make it easier for tenants in private rental properties to keep pets, by preventing landlords from denying responsible renters without a valid reason. Dee Bonnet, whose campaign led Maidstone Council to allow pets in temporary accommodation, knows firsthand the difference this kind of change can make.
Some people don't want to be pet owners, they don't want that responsibility, but they love pets, so the guy, or Rocky's dad, obviously, owns Rocky, and the other two guys here, they may not want that responsibility, but they love having Rocky around. So, you know, if one of them's left in the house and they're with Rocky, that's the company, the love, and, you know, Rocky doesn't want anything apart from being fed, being warmed and being loved, you know, and he gives so much love back, as you've seen this afternoon.
He's been really good for my recovery. Yeah, if I didn't have him, I'd feel worthless, you know, because I've lost everything and he's basically my family.
But is this new law something that everyone agrees with?
Yeah, I think renters should definitely have the right to have an animal or a pet. It's good for well-being, it's good for the children, and I think it's part of your rights as a tenant to be able to have a pet, definitely.
It's a case for a conversation, really. I know now things are so impersonal because you go through the agents and so on, and the agents do most of the vetting before you actually even have a chance to talk to the prospective tenant.
I agree with that. I was going to say my mother lived in a warden-assisted place, and they weren't allowed to have pets, and I thought that was a bit terrible, as she owned the property as well.
Although people say that this is a positive change, those at the Kenwood Trust say that while it is a step in the right direction, that there's still a long way to go.
For us, we would be keen to explore other ways of increasing the amount of supported accommodation, social housing, where pets are able to access that sort of accommodation. I think that's really important, that people can access the accommodation, all types of accommodation, whether that be private rented, social housing, supported accommodation, and have access to their animals still. You know, it's really important for us all to consider ways that can be improved moving forward.
While the new law has been welcomed by campaigners and animal charities, questions remain over how it will work in practice. But for those like Wayne, having a pet is already making a world of a difference. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Maidstone.
Next tonight, Hodeswood near Ashford has been singled out as evidence in a House of Lords inquiry into fly tipping across the country. The House of Lords Environment and Climate Change Committee have called for environmental agencies to make tackling waste crime and fly tipping a priority. Hodeswood has suffered from debris piled high 12 feet and 3,000 tonnes of illegally dumped waste. Megan Shaw has more.
80 hectares of woodland, wildlife and, unfortunately, rubble. Horns Wood, near Ashford in Kent, is a biological site of special scientific interest. This means it is protected for its wildlife or geography. But Horns Wood was a feature in a House of Lords inquiry for other reasons. It has become a dumping ground for waste and debris. The inquiry revealed that each year more than 38 million tonnes of waste is being disposed of illegally by organised crime groups. More than 30,000 tonnes of this has been in Horns Wood, in some places mounting to 12 feet high mounds of rubbish, a problem that started in 2020 and worsened 2 years ago. Fly tipping in general across Kent has garnered concern from residents.
There's people fly tip outside their houses and it's all across the pavement.
In the alleyways.
It's in the alleyways.
Yeah, people dump stuff in the alleyways.
They have a favourite place, which is usually opposite our place as well, isn't it?
I don't know what goes through people's minds. Like, you know, I know that you have to put an effort in to get rid of stuff properly, but at the end of the day, it's harming the environment.
The Environment and Climate Change Committee sent a letter to Emma Reynolds, Secretary of State for the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, and labelled measures to address waste crime, such as that in Hodes Wood, as critically under-prioritised, recommending an independent review. In a letter to the committee, Kent's Police and Crime Commissioner, Matthew Scott, expressed his support for this. He said, together with the Environment Agency, Kent Police and local authorities, I'm committed to creating a joint approach. And I'm pleased to see that the inquiry has made some recommendations to the government, including the need to ensure that the Environment Agency is appropriately funded and staffed. The 8 recommendations include DEFRA setting and checking up on targets and taking a multidisciplinary approach. But those living in Kent seem to want a more localised solution.
We'll go to the tips again. I mean, where do you go? I mean, you have to make passes now before you can go in.
And I think the government needs to step in and to actually spend more money on the local areas.
Yeah, I mean, people have to book in.
Used to pick things up for free, now they don't, and that must, you know, encourage people to put it somewhere else. I think they could bring that back.
Megan Shaw for KMTV in Hodes Wood.
Now, asbestos has been found in debris following a fire in Northfleet. After ongoing surveys to assess damages, traces of the dangerous substance were found whilst testing the debris. In a statement issued this morning, residents have been advised to stay inside with their doors and windows closed, though there's no significant health concern at this time. That's according to the UK Health Security Agency. Local authorities have suggested residents don't come into contact with any ash or debris. Next, caravan owners could be asked to leave their homes as Sheppey Holiday Park unveil plans to replace it with hundreds of new homes. Owners Kent Holdco want to build around 430 permanent homes, including retirement apartments. This would involve scaling down the park, leading for some to be concerned about the future of their caravans. The site manager says they're worried that some users are living on the park all year round, which is not allowed. A full planning application is expected to be submitted earlier next year. Now, Britain's smallest brew pub, the Four Candles, is now up for sale, 13 years after its opening in Broadstairs. Owner Mike Beaumont says it's time for someone younger to take the reins. The establishment proves to be a staple for pub goers nationwide, with it appearing on camera's Good Beer Guide most years. Beaumont estimates a new owner may be able to produce over 90,000 litres of beer a year. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website. That's kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our reports, including this one about residents in Who calling for compensation after sewage overflows from a recent heavy rainfall have wrecked their gardens.
I just can't imagine even gardening being the same. You just keep thinking about the smell and the state and the mess, paper and everything everywhere.
Helen Bruce's garden contaminated with waste, a sign of the stink that's come after the storm in the Hoo Peninsula. It was on the 20th of October the 80-year-old saw sewage leaking down her drive after heavy rainfall, ruining a space she says was sculpted by her husband, who now has dementia.
Like when my husband was at home, he braked the drive and everything, and it's just sitting and seeing it all. Just everything he's done, made the drive, the steps, it's even run down the path. It just makes me feel ill, the fact that things that he's done have been ruined with actual sewage.
You can see Southern Water hard at work behind me, clearing up some of these sewage overflows. But people living in the property say this isn't enough.
It's absolutely disgusting. This shouldn't be happening. They should have sorted the problem out. They've had 3 weeks to sort this out. What have they done? Nothing.
Tracy and Stephen Medhurst live 2 doors down on Marley Road. They've had to clear out their garage after what they say is the second bout of flooding in recent weeks.
Last 3 weeks we've had a horrible stench in the house. It's just permeating through the house. We cannot get rid of the smell. And no mention of any possible compensation, so I can't see them ever doing anything. I mean, I don't even know what channel we could go through to actually try and get compensation, to be honest.
Local councillor Michael Pearce has already written to the water company on the matter, saying this should never have happened in the first place.
There are many elderly residents here who have suffered a lot of distress from this situation, which has been ongoing for some weeks now. This isn't the first time it's happened, and as we're entering the winter period, we're likely to see more heavy downpours of rain, which is just going to exacerbate the situation. So this needs to be resolved quickly, and my residents need to be compensated for the distress, and I will push that quite hard.
In a statement, Southern Water said its teams found blockages in underground pipes along Marley Road and removed unflushables, wet wipes, fats, oils and grease, which caused external flooding, while also blaming heavy rainfall. But despite the company saying they've provided online forms as regards any customer compensation, the distress here is hard to put a price tag on. Ollie Leader in Who.
Now it's time for another quick break, but next up, Ashford's Long Acres Garden Centre is facing a drop in trade due to nightmare roadworks. We're bringing you this and other stories from across the county. See you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. First, an Ashford garden centre is suffering a drop in sales due to what they're calling nightmare roadworks. Long Acres Garden Centre has had a significant loss of trade as roads have been closed in preparation for a new Aldi supermarket. Right turns in and out of Cemetery Lane on the A28 have been banned as new traffic lights are being installed on Canterbury Road, where there'll be an Aldi. General Manager Rachel Thompson said this is the most worrying problem the shop has faced since the pandemic, but the road won't fully be open until December. In some other news now, award-winning musical Fiddler on the Roof is coming to a Canterbury theatre. The classic musical Fiddler on the Roof is coming to Marlow Theatre in Canterbury for 5 nights. The show is now back on tour after a 12-year break, having its Broadway debut in 1964, and the new revival has been nominated for 13 Olivier Awards. Now let's have a quick look at the weather. A fairly cloudy evening across Kent, with us seeing the temperature sit around 11 degrees, a gentle breeze from the southwest, and into tomorrow morning the temperature bumps up across the board to 13 degrees with light rain all around. And in the afternoon the light rain continues, temperatures dropping to 12 with an exception of Dover remaining at 13 degrees. And here's your outlook for the coming days. This includes Thursday looking cloudy with some sun and an average of 14 degrees. Friday with clouds and light rain, 16 degrees throughout the day. And finally Saturday, 14 degrees with light rain and clouds remaining from Friday. And now a new augmented reality experience has been revealed at Rochester Castle. The game, called Forest Keep by Electric Medway and Square Pegs Arts, acts as a choose-your-own-adventure story that explores themes of AI and climate change. The story is all part of Electric Medway's festival as it celebrates its 10th anniversary, while our reporter Henry Luck went down to see this new attraction.
The Rochester Castle Gardens have just become the home for an extraordinary new experience. Electric Medway have teamed up with Square Pegs Arts to create Forest Keep, an augmented reality game as part of Electric Medway's 6th annual festival. All you need to experience it is your mobile phone. Let's go and see what the experience has been like. This Choose Your Own Adventure explores themes of AI and the rising issue of climate change.
So I think we're in a really interesting time when it comes to AI and climate change. Obviously a lot of AI generation is using up energy and therefore contributing towards climate change, but also it can help us tackle climate change and solve some of the problems that we haven't been able to solve.
The event is also special for Electric Medway as the company is celebrating its 10th anniversary.
Yeah, it's a real milestone for the charitable, it's a real milestone for the company. It's been going since 2015. Obviously technology has massively transformed in that time and enabled the ambitions of Electric Medway and all the beneficiaries to grow, and we find ourselves in front of this amazing castle using augmented reality, which maybe 10 years ago was a bit of a dream. So yeah, it's a real milestone to celebrate.
Actors of Square Pegs Arts say these opportunities are vital for getting people with physical and mental disabilities involved in creative projects.
Well, as you know, it's really hard for disabled artists to find opportunities like that, and it's really important, and it makes a big difference when we are involved in events that are happening.
Still in its prototype phase, Electric Medway and Square Pegs Arts are striving to improve the experience and make Forest Keep a reality warper. Henry Luck for KMTV in Rochester.
And finally, for gamers, by gamers. That's the mission of one Tunbridge Wells company organising one of this year's biggest gaming expos in the UK. The To The Moon Expo will be taking place in just a matter of weeks at Birmingham's NEC, with 15,000 gamers from Kent and beyond set to descend on the West Midlands from the 12th to the 13th of November, along with 150 exhibitors and an esports arena. The event founder, Monty Stewart, has popped in to tell us more of what visitors can expect. So, Monty, what inspired you to create this event? Talk to us about where it all started.
Well, back in 2020, myself, I ended up going into esports. It kind of saved my bacon, considering I graduated into the pandemic with a music and events degree. It wasn't exactly useful at that period of time, but from there I ended up with my friend and my co-founder, we started streaming on Twitch, and from there we found our entire journey into the gaming world. And from there we ended up going to marketing, and we saw that studios were having to pay quite large amounts of money to exhibit to these kinds of events. And at the end of the day, we think that those prices are outrageous, and it was really, really important for us to be able to provide an amazing opportunity for studios and for gamers to be able to come to an event that doesn't cost the world to do so.
I see, and we can see here a bit of the lineup of some of the companies that are going to be coming down to the event. Tell us, what can people expect in terms of activities and speakers? Paint us a picture.
100%. So on the 12th, we've got our consumer stage. We've got some amazing VIP guests coming down, such as Luke Dale and Tom McKay from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We've also got an amazing retro area, all the old school retro kind of games. A life-size D&D. You can immerse yourself directly into the world of D&D and play out those characters. Alongside our esports stage, which is happening on the 13th with our League of Legends tournament, which is absolutely, it's going to be crazy without that area there.
Amazing. I mean, when it comes to gaming events and other events, I'm sure it can be hard to differentiate yourselves from behemoths like Comic-Con and similar events. So what is different about this festival?
In terms of like where we differentiate ourselves, we are community focused and community driven. Everything that we do is built alongside our gamers. We have our creator crew that are coming along, all of our Twitch streamers and all of our content creators, cosplayers, and we've built their creator zone with them directly in Discord. So we're not the big conglomerate that just says we're doing this and that's that. We are the small indie team, so to speak, the small indie festival, whereby we come together with our content creators to build amazing experiences for everyone, alongside the gamers, alongside the studios as well.
Sure, I understand that. And with events like these, I imagine there's a fair bit of challenges building up to it, and this is the first edition, am I right in saying that? So tell us, how are you preparing ahead of that big opening day?
A lot of caffeine and a lot of meetings. That's pretty much it. In terms of the open day, we're obviously 2 weeks away now, 12th and 13th. So we're getting all of our logistics in place, production. It's non-stop meetings, basically, to get all this lined up for doors open on the 12th.
I see. And you mentioned there about the fact that you're very community-based, and I'm aware there's a specific emphasis placed on indie developers. And you also mentioned there's a League of Legends tournament.
Yeah.
So how are you going to try and balance between these big AAA studios and these indie developers to make sure that everyone sort of gets a fair piece of that expo pie?
100%. So the way that we positioned ourselves with indies is that we wanted to reduce that fiscal aspect, right? It gatekeeps indies from being able to exhibit at normal or at other kind of events. You're looking anywhere between like £4,000 to £8,000 to exhibit as an indie developer, and for a couple of students that have just come out of university, that's unattainable. So in terms of where we've positioned ourselves, our indies come on board with us for £120, and we say, look, guys, this gives you everything that you need to exhibit. And then on the flip side, with our AAAs, what we encourage them to do are immersive experiences that are going to actually generate ROI at the end of the day for them to attend. Because that was the big thing when we were doing our marketing for a couple of different studios, is that ROI was always the killer. And it was a case of immersive experiences win every time. It's why we have Ready or Not coming down to do a SWAT experience alongside ex-SBS members. And you'll essentially immerse yourself into one of their levels with all the kit included as well. It's going to be awesome.
I see. And I've heard a bit about the accessibility and the diversity that you're trying to put forward as part of this event. Tell us, what inspired you to include some of these safe spaces that I've heard about, and how do they differ from neurotypical spaces for anyone who isn't really familiar?
100%. Well, I myself am autistic, so it's a case of whenever I go to a Gamescom, for example, or if I go to an MCM Comic Con, I'm always there with my AirPods in, because it provides me with essentially just a bit of a barrier, and it can get incredibly overstimulating for people when they go to an event like that, and there's nowhere for them to decompress, there's nowhere for them to go and sit, there's nowhere for them to just take themselves away from that. So that safe space, which we're doing alongside Safe in Our World, essentially is an area for people to go and decompress, and a place for people, the way we've got noise cancelling headphones, we've got lots of stuff there to try and provide support alongside the amazing team at Safe in Our World, who are going to be running that area for us.
That's amazing. And I imagine you're very focused on November, like you mentioned, the first edition. Tell us, what's the plan after that? If it goes well, a second edition? And are there any plans to expand? I know this is all early doors.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us a bit about if it all goes right.
So it all goes right, we have a 5-year plan. So we're aiming to stick around until 2030. We want to grow this up to about 50,000. We're here to empower the creative industries. We're here to really bring together, because at the end of the day, we've spawned some amazing IP for gaming out of this country, from GTA coming up from Dundee, and that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important that we remember that. And I think it's really important that we empower the creatives and the amazing people that we have in this country to do outstanding things. And for global innovation as well. We've got an Australian exchange coming over. We've got people flying out from Texas to exhibit their games because it's cheaper for them to fly to the UK and exhibit with us than it is for them to exhibit in their hometown.
Wow, I see. And the audience probably couldn't see, but my eyes lit up when you said D&D. But not everyone's like me. For anyone who isn't a D&D fan or maybe into gaming, is the event still for them? How would you sort of pitch it to your average person on Gillingham High Street? 100%.
Well, in terms of who should come, if you are a gamer, if you enjoy D&D, if you are creative, gaming isn't all just about gaming. There's so many different things that you can do within it, from the D&D aspect to tabletop to even the marketing guys behind it. Like, we're here to try and showcase that gaming isn't all about playing video games at a professional level. It's not what it's all about. You can get into so many different angles here, and it's why we've got so many different educational partners such as Northampton University and College of Esports to really showcase what you can do and where you could go into the gaming industry from that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a huge industry, especially here in the UK. We haven't got much time. Very quickly, could you tell us how can people find out more? Where can they buy tickets? Tell us about that.
100%. So tickets are available on our website. We're also on Eventbrite as well. Find out more on our website, which is www.tothemoonexpo.io. And then, yeah, we'll see you in November on the 12th and 13th for sure.
Amazing. Honestly, I wish I could be there. I wish I had more time off, but that sounds amazing. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, you've been watching Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. There is, of course, more news made just for Kent throughout the evening, but that is all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching.